Hey guys, Weeby Newz here. So right after I made my last video talking about how Danganronpa 2x2 was confirmed to be a revival of the series, Kodaka and Sakakibara went on to do several more interviews regarding 2x2's release with Noisy Pixel, Gaming Trend, and RPG Site. Unfortunately, I was super duper busy this weekend, so I apologize that this video is late. But yeah, I'm here now, and there are a few really interesting answers that were shared in these interviews that I'd like to discuss. I do want to mention as well that I'm not going to be going through all the questions and answers as there is a lot, and most of it is stuff that they've already discussed before. Instead, in this video, I'm just going to focus on the main few parts that I found to be really interesting. So if you want to read all of the interviews in their entirety, they will be linked down below. But yeah, please do be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you do enjoy my videos. That kind of stuff does help out a bunch, and yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this. The first part of these interviews that I want to highlight is that in multiple interviews, Kodaka was not shy to say that they do not listen to fan opinions and are not scared to kill off fan favorite characters. One of the interviewers asked, how much did fan attachment to specific characters influence the decisions you made when developing Slay Him mode? Kodaka said, basically when it comes to the scenario, we don't listen to fan opinions very much, we depict the characters as we understand them. I know these characters better than the fans do. This part killed me. I honestly think a lot of fans probably need to hear this too. Like, I do understand that as a fan of a series, we can become super passionate about our favorite characters, and I'm sure it feels like to us that we love the character maybe even more than the creator does. And because of that, we might feel entitled to the character getting a certain amount of screen time or them being handled a certain way. But I do think it's important at the same time to always keep in mind that even though we do love this character so much, it's not a character that we actually created. And because of this, there still needs to be a level of respect that we give to the actual person who created them and the choices they make. And that's not to say you can't criticize anything a show or a game or a movie does, but of course, just be respectful about it. And this comment sort of made me wonder if he's dealt with abrasive fans like this before, especially in regards to him like killing off maybe people's favorite characters. Next, the interviewer asks, was it difficult to kill off certain characters? Sometimes anime has a problem where a character becomes too good or popular, so the creators don't kill them off. Attack on Titan, for example, killed off a bunch of people during its first season, but kept most of its central group for the rest of the series. Was it difficult to kill off a fan favorite character early in this game? Kodaka said, no. I hope players will wait with excitement, wondering who will be the next person to die. After I read this, my first thought was, Chiaki and Komaeda are so cooked. Kidding, kind of. A little bit, but also not. But I have seen a lot of people say that they expect both of these characters to live throughout the entirety of the game, especially Komaeda, because of their popularity. So I think it is good to see here that they're confirming that everyone will be treated the same, and no one is going to get like popularity plot armor, you know what I mean? As much as I do love both of those characters, they're literally two of my favorites from the original Danganronpa 2. I do just generally want the creators to do what they think is best for the story. So as long as they can keep 2x2 interesting and exciting without them, then I will let them cook and fully trust it. I think my main concern with getting rid of Komaeda is that I worry that the game would be missing that rival character that the protagonist needs to push them to work harder, and that the story needs for that tension to remain in the air throughout each chapter. I just really wonder who they would choose if he does die. And honestly, my first thought for an alternative was actually Akane, which I'm sure seems really random on the surface level, but in the Danganronpa 2 art book, it was actually revealed by Komatsuzaki that Akane was originally meant to be an evil lady. Her talent started out as the super high school level criminal or sinner, depending on the translation, and they eventually changed it to super high school level gymnast because of her bronze over brain personality. There's actually been a rumor floating around the fan base forever that Akane was originally meant to be Hajime's rival instead of Komaeda in the beta version of Danganronpa 2. Firstly, because her original concept was a dark talent, like I mentioned before, and secondly, because there's this promotional image for Danganronpa 2 where it looks like she's refuting Hajime's argument. I don't want to get too deep into the theory because it's a lot, and honestly, it's been spread around the fandom so much now that it's basically become treated like fact. I honestly totally forgot that this was never actually confirmed while researching this video because like I just remembered hearing it before and being like, oh yeah, that's fact, right? Overall, this idea has never really been confirmed, but there is still a decent amount of evidence for it. And if this is the case and it is a plot line that they never got the chance to explore, I would be really interested in seeing her take up this role potentially. She honestly has a really dark past if you play her free time events, so it's a solid tragic backstory to create a villain. And I know she isn't the brightest character, which can make her seem like a less formidable foe on the surface, but we've never really had a head-empty chaotic rival, and I think it could be really interesting. Like, she just starts threatening to kill people if we don't do exactly what she says, and if Nekomaru was to die early in a route like this, then there would be no one else to challenge her when it comes to physical strength. I think it's an interesting idea for sure. I think the main issue with it is that they also said during one of the interviews that one of the things they don't want to change about 2x2 is the setting and the characters. By this, I feel like they of course mean that they don't want to change any of the characters physically, like they don't plan on swapping out one of the original characters with a new character. But I feel like they also probably mean they don't want to change any of the characters' personalities as we know it. And if that is the case, then there's just no way they're going to overhaul her personality to fit this character type. But I still think there could be some ways for her to come into this role naturally if they do it tactfully. And another thing Kodaka said is, in Slay Him mode, I think you'll also be able to see different sides of these characters that weren't shown in the original Danganronpa 2. So I feel like this could imply that, we could see a different side of Akane. And even if it's not her, I think there could be another character that could potentially take on this rival role too. And I would be very, very interested to see who that could be. I'm curious who you guys think could take up the mantle of being the rival character as well. Kodaka also said that you can imagine the second mode of 2x2 as the second time through a game of werewolf. Totally different cases, things happening completely different from the original scenario. That is what the second mode is all about. I thought this was a really cool way to phrase it, especially as someone who loves social deduction games. And it really made me excited to see the new sides of the characters in 2x2 and what new roles they may end up playing. This part also made me think of 100 Line Last Defense Academy as well, Kodaka's other popular game that released just last year. It has a ton of different alternate routes in it depending on the choices you make. 100 endings in total, hence the name. So for example, maybe in one scenario, there's a character that's the villain who crashes out by the end of the game. But in a different scenario, he's able to recognize his flaws and redeem himself to the group. Same character, but two completely plausible scenarios based on different circumstances and what we know about him. I feel like with Kamada, I always kind of assumed that in 2x2 he'll either stay a rival or die first. But after thinking of it this way, I think it could be really interesting to see him play a completely different role. I absolutely loved him as the rival in Danganronpa 2. It was honestly one of my favorite parts of the game. But when I really think about it, I'm not sure I want him to play that role again, especially if it means his character stays stagnant and we don't really see anything new from him. Like, I love him to death, but I don't know if I can take 35 more hours of Kamada talking about stepping stones and hope. I would honestly much rather see a different side of him, same with the others like Akane, Sonya, Gundam, etc. It doesn't mean he has to get a redemption arc or anything, but just like a new role would be nice. But yeah, these answers were some of the most interesting parts of the interviews in my opinion, so I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. But yeah, next up they discussed more about the new tricks in 2x2, and they stated that all the victims and culprits will be different. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm overthinking this, but I am curious by how different they mean by this. Like, for example, if a character was a victim in the first game, do they have to be either a survivor or a culprit now? Or is it just like if they were a victim in chapter 3, then they're definitely not going to be a victim in chapter 3 again, but they could be a victim in chapter 5 or 4, etc. I think I lean towards the latter being the better option, because if it's the first one, then we may be able to predict the culprits more easily because, hey, now I can cross out 5 suspects right away before we even start the game. And with the latter, it still stinks because there is a chance the character may fall into the same fate of being a victim again. But I could see in a new scenario a way to make their death more memorable or different enough to still leave an impact. Like, for example, let's say, oh dang, Mihiru dies as a victim again. At least if it's like chapter 5, we got to learn more about her. Maybe the circumstances are different. It relates to something from her past we never even knew about her in the first place. I feel like it might still be easier to kind of like have characters have the same fate, but still be done in a different and exciting way, rather than just like being really stringent on like, okay, Mihiru was a victim in the first game, so she can't be a victim ever now. Because yeah, I really don't want to get in my head and start thinking of like meta arguments about who the next culprit is. And overall, I hope they just don't confirm anything, because I know if I get confirmation, my brain is going to start going to that place of making meta arguments, whether I like it or not. But yeah, they were also asked again about if they would do a Slay Him mode for the other Danganronpa releases, and although they didn't shoot it down, they did seem more dismissive of the idea in this interview. Sakakibara said the premise of Danganronpa 2 happened to work well for adding Slay Him mode. Trying to do the same thing with the other games might not work as well from a narrative perspective, so it could be difficult. Yeah, it was just kind of interesting to me because I feel like that first interview I covered, they were kind of like, well, if the fans want it, we'll do it. They didn't really mention anything about that here. I kind of wonder if they were just tired of this question, honestly, since they were asked about it in like every interview. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they seemed a lot less enthusiastic during this answer. And the last part I want to cover is at the very end of the Noisy Pixel interview, they discuss Raincoat a bit. And Raincoat is a game that Kodaka made in collaboration with Spike Chunsoft that was released back in 2023. Kodaka said, that's up to Spike Chunsoft, and it depends on the level of fan demand. Next, the interviewer asks, with Danganronpa 2x2 getting closer to the release and this ramp up towards connecting more closely with the fans, is there anything you would like them to know? Kodaka replies, we've announced that the game will be released in early 2027, so there is still some time to wait. In the meantime, please play Raincode. And then he said, if you play Raincode first, Danganronpa 2x2 will be 100 times more interesting. I've seen a lot of people freaking out about this part, and honestly, understandably so, because the way he words this makes it sound like 2x2 is going to like canonically connect to Raincode somehow. I do want to say I don't think that is the case, personally. Kodaka really loves to promote his games and interviews, and he usually plugs 100 Line a lot since that's the game he's the most proud of right now and has poured so much passion and budget into. But I think he just decided to promote Raincode here instead in like a cheeky manner because it just happened to get brought up in the previous question. And since this is a Spike Chunsoft interview, it's probably more respectful to promote a game that he made in collaboration with them rather than 100 Line like he normally does. And yeah, literally when he was asked about Raincode in the previous question, he had no idea whether or not there was going to be a sequel, which does not sound like a person who is like plotting currently to connect that game to 2x2, since it seems like the future for Raincode unfortunately is a bit uncertain at the moment. So that's another reason why I really feel like this was just kind of like a random joke he threw in. He's made a lot of jokes like this before, especially with promoting his games, so I wouldn't read too much into it unless he brings it up again in another professional interview like this. The funny thing about this statement is that it's actually the opposite. Raincode is 100 times more interesting to play as a Danganronpa fan because of some of the things he chose to do in it, and I'll leave it at that. If you know, you know. But yeah, that was just a really funny thing for him to say. Also, finally, Kodaka did not confirm or deny that Hajime will finally learn that an octagon has 8 sides. This is truly so devastating. And knowing Hajime, I don't think he could figure it out even with 100 endings. So our odds are looking real slim, guys. So just, you know, thoughts and prayers for Hajime. But yeah, it's honestly just really funny to finally see him acknowledge that meme. I'm really curious if you knew about it before Anime Expo or not, because I don't know if it's actually a big meme in the Japanese fan base or not. I feel like it might mostly be a Western thing. But yeah, that basically concludes all the important parts of the interviews that I wanted to touch on. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. What do you think the new characters' roles will be in this game? What do you think about Kodaka enjoying killing our favorite characters and not caring about our feelings regarding it? I thought it was kind of slay. What roles do you think some of the characters might take on in this new version? Like, who do you think could be the rival? Will we get a new protagonist, etc.? I'm really curious to hear your opinions. I've heard a lot of people mentioning a Kamida protagonist, which I think could be really interesting too. It is one of the few other roles I could really see him doing besides like being a rival. I would honestly really love that because like I love Kamida. He's like one of my favorite characters in all of Danganronpa. But I don't want to get my hopes up too much because like I have no evidence that'll happen, so I feel like if I start like headcanoning it, I might get let down by the time the game comes out if it doesn't happen. But yeah, thanks guys so much for watching the video. Please do be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you did enjoy it. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you real soon.